All right.
Hello!
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the General Geekery Podcast, the podcast where we like to talk about everything geek-related, geek-oriented, or things we just love to talk about.
Yep.
So, as always, this is Donald Kaczynski, your coffee ninja and lover of all things caffeine, even though technically I'm drinking tea, but it's caffeinated tea.
Yep.
So, it balances out. And with me, as always, my partner in crime, the great artistic Hannah Kubiak.
Hello.
So, this is going to be a little bit of an interesting episode related to recent things. So, Netflix is a service that has offered many original series that are highly acclaimed in terms of, like, not just live action, but also in terms of animation, BoJack Horseman being one of them.
Oh, I started watching that the other day.
Trust me, like once you finish it, we're gonna have a talk about that.
It's so funny.
But that's not the animated series we're gonna talk about today.
Damn.
Today, we'll talk about it another day.
Yeah.
Today, the show we're talking about has been a project that has been in production probably for years. And people always writ it off as, like, it's never going to work because video game adaptations to film or TV does not work. But God almighty, this one probably hit it out of the park and opened up the door for a lot. Today, we are talking about the Netflix original series based on the Konami franchise of the same name, Castlevania.
All right.
One of my guilty pleasure games. I love the Castlevania series to death. I have I've played them before. I actually have a collection of the original games downloaded and saved onto my PlayStation 4.
Sweet.
So for a little bit of like retro feel to it. So
sometime when we finally get around to doing a Nepticon, you should teach me how to play that.
Absolutely. That would be a fun one to do.
Now that I've mentioned it, we gotta do it.
Maybe once the summer rolls around. Like I got a couple ideas running around, so no worries.
Awesome.
So, for those not familiar with Castlevania as a series, Castlevania is a series that was produced and licensed by Konami, but was released on the Famicom NES in the 80s. It was one of the very first It was one of the very first games, I will want to say, for Nintendo, and is probably one of the most popular. Definitely has a very good hardcore fan base, but also the series is also noted for noted for a few things. The game series is noted for its difficulty at some points, but also its aesthetic, its story, and its relation to the lore of vampires, which, of course, like, vampires, like, you see them everywhere. There's so many different iterations of it, from the classics, like Bram Stoker's Dracula, as well as other things like, unfortunately, cashing in on teenage love like Twilight, but that's a can of worms I'm going to open for another time.
Just leave it alone. Leave it alone.
I thought I bleached my mind of it, but unfortunately not. Anyway, Castlevania has been a passion project that has been apparently just been wanted to be released for so long. It was originally gonna try to be adapted into a live action series, but eventually went to animation. So, the original first season, which was only 4 episodes, was released in 2017. I would want to say.
Yeah.
And I think I am right. Yep. Okay. July 2017 was when the series was originally first released. It was 4 episodes, just to kind of test the waters. On the same day it was released, there was such positive feedback, it was already greenlit for a second season.
The day it was released?
The day of its release or the day after.
That is insane.
Like,
oh my gosh.
There was there was so much hype going in. And, like, so many people were pleased.
It was, I loved it.
There's been 2 seasons that have been released, 12 episodes in total so far, with a 3rd season planned for release on March 5th or March 6th. So that's one of the reasons why I wanted to talk about it today, because there's a lot to talk about, especially with like how the third season is going to come up. So before we talk about anything about the show, major spoilers. Major spoiler alert if you haven't seen it already.
Yes.
We highly recommend that you go watch it.
Major spoiler?
Nice.
Sir. Yes, sir.
All right.
I love those things. Like, major spoiler, general geekery, private parts. I want to make, like, it's my dream to make sort of a little, I don't know, some sort of thing that is the story of Private Parts and his adventures in the army. Yes, this is one of our new recruits, Private Parts. Attention!
Yes, sir!
Yes, sir! Private Parts reporting for duty. I just spat everywhere. Private Parts!
Wow, anyway, what a tangent we went on that one.
I know. Oh, man.
That's all right.
Like, Catch-22, Major is probably one of my favorite ongoing jokes ever.
What's your vector, Victor? What?
Victor, what's your vector?
What?
What's your vector, Victor?
And then we go straight into airplane. Love it.
Yeah.
So, how the synopsis of the show. But in basic terms, Dracula is planning to wipe out... Dracula played by Graham McTavish, who some of you may know as... more widely known as Dwalin from the Hobbit trilogy. Who does a fantastic job, by the way. I love him in the show. He is going to wipe out the human race in the area of Wallachia and beyond for the murder of his wife, Lisa, by the church. That's
Lisa Tepesh.
Lisa Tepesh.
Tepesh.
Wife of Vlad Dracula Tepesh. Just the way they say these names is just, love it. And out comes a member of the Belmont family, who are a family of vampire hunters and demon slayers within the universe of Castlevania. The last surviving Belmont, Trevor, rises up to confront this threat. There's more to it than that, but that is the general synopsis.
He does it very reluctantly.
Reluctantly, but we'll get into that. So, long story short, this entire series is an adaptation of Castlevania 3, Dracula's Curse. Because Castlevania 3 was a prequel to, like, the first Castlevania.
Oh, okay.
So in Castlevania 3, like, the multiple characters that you see in here, like Trevor, Sypha, Alucard, they are playable characters in that game with their own unique abilities, almost very similar to how they're presented in the show. Cool. So apparently, here's the thing that eventually, like, really got me, is if I remember this correctly, most of the creative team that worked on Castlevania had not played the games prior.
Okay.
You can kind of tell in certain points, but at the same time, you can also tell that they're being faithful.
Right. Okay. Do they kind of know the narrative?
Yeah, kind of. Like, you have to do your research on something like this, because if you don't do your research on, like, the original source material and just half-ass it, you have something like the movie Doom. It's a long story.
Okay.
It's a long story. There's, like, so many levels where that failed.
Talk about it another time.
Yeah. Well, failed things, we'll talk about that another time. But,
that would be great.
With, like, Castlevania does so much stuff right in terms of, like, the art style, the atmosphere, and just the character work, just the performances of all these different actors. So, I'm versed to a certain extent in the franchise. Hannah.
Yeah.
How are your thoughts on the series? I don't know if you've played... I'm pretty sure you haven't played the franchise.
I knew there was a video game because in the credits it said based on the video game.
Right. Right.
And I watched the series last week. It took me like a day and a half to watch the 2 seasons, though. So
it doesn't take that long.
Champion binger.
Yeah.
And yeah, speaking of binging, as a proud binger of Supernatural, I love monster hunting anything.
So
I love it.
I knew you would love that,
Yeah.
the series based on that, because your previous talks on Supernatural.
Saving people, hunting things.
So
the family business.
Yes. It's really, really great. Like, the first season works as, like, a setup.
Yeah.
Like, to bring together the main cast, see how the events happened, and then confronting it. Because back during the days of, like, the NES, like, story was not really as prevalent as is it now in most, like, story-driven video games today, where, like, story is a major point for, like, a lot of, like, like RPGs and, like, major stories like that. It wasn't as prevalent back during the NES era, because that was still during a time where video games were just coming back from, like, the big crash from, like, the Atari 5600 and everything like that, and all that.
I don't know anything about that, so I'll take your word for it.
Yeah, like, there was, like, a big time where, like, video games almost became non-existent entirely because it got so bad. Luckily, Nintendo, the Famicom, and the NES helped save that.
Okay.
And Castlevania was, like, one of the games that was heavily lauded and applauded by Nintendo for that, even though the series, like, the first game is, like, notorious for its difficulty. But, so, now, I want to... So, for the main story, for, like, the first couple episodes, first episode, we see how all the events begin.
Yep.
Dracula meets the woman he eventually marries. We see,
voiced by Emily Swallow.
I love her.
I've talked about her before.
Yes, you have.
Yep.
I bet that surprised.
She was in Supernatural.
I think that's surprise. I want to see the look on your face. Just go back in time and have you recognize that was Emily Swallow, and you're just like, oh my god. No,
I knew that already because I had seen the first episode, and for some reason I didn't continue.
Okay.
So I knew that was her, and it made me very excited.
Right. So, the first episode was the setup to, like, explain how all these things happened. While the next 3 episodes follow our main hero, so to speak, Trevor Belmont, and his life, like, becoming a drifter that was abandoned by the country that his family swore to protect.
Yeah.
To now rising up in defiance of the church in order to make sure, like, this stops.
Yeah.
Because Dracula unleashes demons of the night on the entire country of Wallachia. And in vengeance for the love of his wife.
Yeah. Well, the church burned her as a witch.
Yeah, she was tried as a witch because she met Dracula wanting to learn about science, about medical science specifically, because she wanted to be a better doctor.
Yeah, like forgotten knowledge.
Exactly. And in the show of Castlevania, Dracula is the wealth of forgotten knowledge. He is from, like, generations and, like, civilizations past. Almost like if you were stumbling upon the lost advanced city of Atlantis, almost.
Right, yes.
Only it's Dracula.
Yeah.
Probably the most famous vampire in vampire lore.
Yeah. Oh, man.
But this depiction of Dracula is different from other ones because as it starts off, he starts out much more subdued. He's not as he doesn't feel the need to, like, conquer or anything like that, or even impose his will upon the night. He's much more subdued when we first see him. He's just nonchalantly just spending his days in his castle with his knowledge and everything like that. And it was his wife, Lisa, that opened things up to them. And eventually they would have a son, Alucard. Dracula spelled backwards, for those of you who don't know.
Nice.
Which
I actually did not notice that. That is cool.
Really?
No, I didn't.
Okay. Interesting. That was always a big joke for those that know vampire lore and everything like that.
Yeah, no, I don't. I've never read the book Dracula. I've never seen the original movie or anything.
All the movies and everything? Okay.
No.
Okay. That's okay.
Everything I know is basically just culturally absorbed into my brain.
Through like general knowledge of, like, word of mouth. Okay.
Yep.
All right.
General knowledge.
All right. I have a little bit more of thing on this because I took a class in college that apparently we studied all about vampire literature.
What?
It was actually a really cool class.
That is amazing.
And I do actually, I think I still have a copy of Dracula that I can lend you.
Oh, it's right over there.
Yeah.
I've been staring at it for months. Wow.
If you want me to lend it to you, I can lend it to you.
Yes, I would like to read it.
Absolutely. So yeah, that is all, that was all done in the first episode, and eventually the next 3 episodes, we settle on the fictional town of Grezhit, that's under attack by the Night Horde. Trevor meets this group of nomads that are carriers of knowledge, ancient knowledge from both the past and somehow the future.
Yeah, the speakers.
The speakers, with who have magical partitions among them. One of them being Saifa Belnades, one of the playable characters in Castlevania 3.
Yep.
And there's a prophecy about a sleeping warrior under Grezhit, which it turns out is Alucard, who was there resting during after confronting his father and failing because he knows his mother would not want Dracula to take up revenge.
Yep.
Because she even begged Dracula at the stake.
Right.
Even though he could not hear her.
Yeah, probably not.
So, now that we got that first season out of the way, thoughts on the first 4 episodes, like, as a whole?
Okay. It was a little slow, but I was fine with that. I have patience to see where a narrative goes. I love the introduction of Trevor.
Oh my god!
It was one of my favorite things.
Fight.
The bar fight, yeah, and just because I love a character that's really let themselves go. I like seeing them find their way back from that, and he's just so drunk and addled that like he used to kill vampires, but
he gets fucking vampires.
But he gets his ass kicked, yeah, in this tavern.
And he's like, and they keep kicking him in the
yeah, and he's like, leave my testicles alone. I loved it so much, yeah, and just seeing the ineptitude at the beginning there, you're like, okay, this is our hero. Okay, yeah. I'm with it.
And part of it is down to like the charm of Richard Armitage's performance.
Oh my gosh, I could listen to his voice all day.
For those who are not familiar with like specific actor's name, Richard Armitage is Thorin Oakenshield in the Hobbit prequel trilogy to Lord of the Rings, and it's probably like one of the main highlights of that entire trilogy.
Yep. Yeah.
Like even though you could harp on a lot of things in that trilogy, Richard Armitage as Thorin Oakenshield is probably like the biggest highlight.
Oh yeah, so good. But yeah, he's right up there with Alan Rickman and Benedict Cumberbatch for that that smooth British accent that just takes you away.
Yeah, exactly. It's so off-putting when you first hear it, but as you get more used to it, it's just like, oh my god.
Yeah.
So good.
So nice. It's like, I wish I was British.
So British. Anyway, so yeah, we see all that, and to him eventually owning up to his past mistakes that he has to do this. Like he comes to the realization it's time to stop all of this madness.
Yeah, and then when he gets right down to it, like when the demon hordes are attacking, and he tells everybody to get into ranks, and he tells the priest to bless water and go get salt and all this stuff. He's right on top of it. Like you could tell that this is what he did full time back in the day.
Because it was the work of the Belmonts, the work of generations.
Yep. And I appreciated that part particularly because I think basically as a religious person, just how religious people are portrayed, I sometimes think that it's a little bit unfair and you get only one side of it. And I totally agree that like the bishop and the archbishop and stuff, terrible examples of church leadership. They like, what is it? The bishop, he says, like, I am the church. It's like, no, you're fucking not.
all
Like,
intents and
I'm like,
purposes.
you're supposed to be serving your people and serving God, but you're doing this all for yourself, and you are afraid, and that's why you're afraid of these demonic forces, and that's why you're getting ripped to shreds, and why your town is falling apart is your fear. And then there's other priests where he's like, hey, you bless the water, and it's sort of like, okay, holy things have a place in this fight, but the way that the higher ups are using it is all fear and superstition and all that. Like, they're the ones who burned Lisa because they were...
Well, it was...
they were afraid of her knowledge. They were like, you know more than us. You must be of the devil.
That's right, because it was during a time period where, like,
just
the witch...
cowardice.
Yeah, when the witch trials were just so prominent.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Which, like the... I gotta say, the balls of the creators of the show to, like, post, like, the church in this light, because... Normally,
I don't know. I don't think it's really ballsy these days.
Well,
but...
I mean, mostly in, like, vampire, like, mediums and everything like that. The church is usually, like, shown as, like, the good people and everything like that. But showing the aspects, like, the darker aspects, like, of it, especially, like, how corrupt it can get, especially with the Bishop of Gresham, who basically hired thugs in the guise of priests.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. Oh, yeah. I don't know. Maybe I just have a different perspective. I feel like religious people are really attacked nowadays.
Yeah, they a lot of them are
stereotyped, you know.
Some for the right reasons,
Yeah,
but, like,
yeah.
some
there are
there
are some terrible religious people out there. Just saying.
Exactly, but there are also some that are great and are understanding and truly believe in, like, the goodness of everyone and don't try to be so radical.
Yeah.
Which we don't see really any examples like that in Castlevania, but like for what they showed us, like, wow, like, they had a lot of guts to really do that and show, like, how, like, blind faith, how dangerous blind faith can be in that first season.
Exactly, because being raised the way that I was, I always knew that like, faith and reason are equal and they go side by side. And what we see is, I don't think it's blind faith so much as, like, in the case of the Archbishop and the Bishop of Gresham and whatever. I feel like that's just, oh gosh.
Well, with the Bishop of Gresham, it was mostly blind faith through fear.
Right, yeah, he was just...
induced by fear.
Yeah, he was just terrified, and he was trying to basically use the power of man in the name of God, which is why he just relied on himself and what he could do.
You Belmonts have never understood the power of the Word of God.
Oh gosh,
that line terrified. I'm every time that bishop's actor said God, he he said God with such just, like, ecstasy. I'm like, can you stop?
Yeah.
Can you please not?
It's like, look, you're embarrassing yourself.
Just stop. Just stop.
No, yeah, he's just so far gone. And then, who was it? There was the beast that came into the church.
Oh yeah.
And he said something like, God doesn't care.
This is an empty box.
Yeah, or something. Yeah, like, it was an empty box because the bishop didn't really believe.
Yep. My life's work is in his name. Your life's work makes him puke. I'm like, that scene is just,
That had me.
It felt so right, but at the same time, like, you kind of wish it was, like, either Dracula or Alucard that could have done it. But at the same time, given, like, how far gone, like, in madness that Dracula went at the time, because a year had passed since his wife's death, and he and he was building the army, and he fell deeper and deeper and deeper into the madness, as Season 2 showed.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Which, we spent a lot of time on Season 1. It's a great first way to introduce it.
Mm-hmm.
But then, for someone like me, who originally watched it from the beginning and all that, we had to wait 15 months.
Oh, wow.
Dang near, for the next season.
That's almost as long as we waited for the second season of Sherlock, right?
Pretty much. Well, Sherlock was like 2 years almost.
Yeah, I know. That was insane.
So, Season 2, it's kind of like a recap of like how the event started. We see the Inquisition originally going in and like bringing Lisa to justice, and then we're brought to the present day in Dracula's court. Yeah. And we get to see more of the inner workings of how Dracula's court works with all the vampires. And we're introduced to 2 human characters who are able to forge demons through the remains of humans, Hector and Isaac, who, for only those in the hardcore know of Castlevania, are 2 characters ripped out of some of the games. Not the core series. Well, not the core one from like 1 through 4, but like from the series itself.
Yeah.
It was kind of like a sidequel / sequel to Castlevania 3, but
oh, okay.
Regardless.
Cool. Yeah, they were interesting characters.
Yeah, but I got a little annoyed with Hector like through it because he became more cowardly and
yeah.
There wasn't much depth to him besides his backstory and just
his backstory was
and then
it was just voices and it was really terrifying.
And then later on when he was when he was showing remorse at like betraying Dracula because he really cared.
Yeah.
And then you have Isaac.
Oh gosh.
Oh my god. Isaac is I think he was probably one of the highlights of Season 2.
He was a pretty awesome character.
Like, you want to talk about, like, devotion and loyalty and things like that?
Yeah.
Isaac was probably the most loyal follower of Dracula, despite being human.
Yeah.
Like, and Dracula said it himself. Can I call you my friend? He is in the... Dracula wants to wipe away all of humanity, but at the same time, he realizes the importance of this human that he calls his friend.
Yeah.
What a thing.
Well, yeah, he saved his life, too.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, oh my god.
Yeah. I love that scene. I think it was at the end of the season where Isaac was basically attacked by all these people at the watering hole.
I simply don't care.
Yeah.
Me neither. And he goes ballistic. I'm like, oh my god.
That was awesome.
But yeah, the entire second season was like more like it was kind of more character building. Like it was
Yeah.
I think it was a little slower than what someone would expect it because they wanted this more grand epic quest of like the core 3 of when Trevor, Alucard, and Sypha get up and they go fight Dracula. They are instead traveling to the ruins of the Belmont estate.
Yes, the Belmont Hold.
To try to figure a way to track Dracula. Which is where we get all these different references to like past Castlevania games with Leon Belmont being the first not the first Alucard, the first Belmont to like come to Wallachia and track Dracula, which is kind of in tone with like with the games as well.
Oh, cool. Okay.
And then you have, like, the Morningstar Whip, which is, like, one of the most iconic whips in the series.
Such a cool weapon. I don't know how that weapon would work outside of an anime, though.
A whip? That's a very good question.
Yeah, I mean, like, that chain, it was so long, and it was, like, he would, like, wrap it around stuff and make all these knots. It almost reminded me of, what is it? When, at Ren Fair when there's a big like silk scarf and gymnasts climb up it and like
it reminds you of one of those?
Yeah, just the way that he manipulates it and sort of folds it to make it shorter to like trip people up, or it's longer so he can swing. Just I don't know.
Yeah, I can definitely see that. And so, like, like some of the episodes are slow, but at the same time, it's just so intriguing because you can see the tension building in Dracula's court, which will ultimately, like, it would obviously turn into like a coup d'état.
Yeah.
Like you could see it brewing in like several of the characters, especially Carmilla. Let's talk about this woman.
Oh my gosh, ridiculous.
So for those familiar with vampire lore, Dracula, like in terms of history, Dracula is not can be recorded as like the first like vampire in like fiction, but also at the same time not. Carmilla was a figure that was also present, like, I think a little bit before or around the same time as, like, when Bram Stoker first conceived Dracula. Or, like, the focus of Carmilla was, like, what inspired Dracula. So they bring in this character. Like, Dracula and Carmilla are, like, two of the probably biggest figures in, like, vampire lore.
Yeah.
And so, like, and she's playing, like, this mind game and everything like that. And, like, the actress who plays her, stunning at just getting under your skin.
Yeah. Such a, like, manipulative, just so savvy with all of these people, like, in the court kind of stuff.
Absolutely. And,
my gosh.
and we're just seeing all of this happening and everything like that. Oh, Jamie Murray. That's who it was.
Jamie Murray. Oh, wow.
Okay, I was just trying to figure out, like, who the actress's name was. And I was like, okay, Jamie Murray. And it's just, like, she's playing this, like, huge chess game, and she almost got everything on that. And then, like, the teleportation castle stuff in episode 6 happened, and all she could do was just stare in disbelief and just be like, what the fuck just happened? I was laughing at that. She's like, well, my plan just went to shit.
Yeah. Huh. She was in Dexter.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm trying to find her.
But for season 2, it's this entire big build-up, and then, like, the last 3 episodes are this giant climax.
Yeah.
With episode 6, with the struggle in the Belmont estate as they're trying to track down Dracula, and Trevor's buying them time. With the fight at with the fight at Brela, where Carmilla springs her trap, to them bringing the Dracula's castle with the Belmont trio bringing the castle to them. And then episode 7. Oh my god.
Episode 7?
When they finally enter the castle to confront the army and Dracula.
Was that episode 7? Oh no, yeah, because there was 4 and then there was 7 and 8.
Yeah.
Cool. Okay.
Okay, yeah, it's okay. I have to remind myself of, like, there's one episode after that, but more on that in just a moment. This episode pretty much solidified that, like, made this entire season.
It was pretty awesome.
Like, the build up to it was just amazing, and I think, like the Dracula fight was superb, and I'll get to that in a second. But the first fight in the main hall, like with all the vampires stop and do it, like. And the theme that plays in the background is the first time in the series that an original track from the Castlevania games was inserted.
Ooh, I'm going to have to watch that again just to hear it, because I've never played the game. So I don't know what you're talking about.
So the track name is Bloody Tears, and is probably one of the most iconic pieces of music from the Castlevania library.
That sounds pretty metal.
And, like, I'll do you a side-by-side comparison, like, later on with, like, the original NES one to the one they use in Castlevania, because they make it more orchestral and grand in this one. And, like, but for those like me that play through the games and, like, know the music and everything like that, as soon as those first few notes hit, they're like, they're not. They're not. And for fans of the original games to, like, have that knowledge going into it, it just made it feel more special.
Yeah.
And then, oh my god, we haven't even talked about the fight choreography in this show.
No.
The fight choreography is damn impressive for, like, what it is.
Yep.
Like, although it's, like, not as, like, grand scale as, like, some, like, Japanese anime or other animated shows can be, they make the most out of what they have, and it is stellar. Like, Trevor swinging his freaking Morning Star around, Alucard going ham with his levitating sword and transforming into a wolf.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And then, oh my god, Sypha.
Okay, my favorite thing that she did was, do you remember, she made a really thin, like, almost like a plate glass window, a sheet of ice toward this guy, and he started tightrope walking across the top of it, and then she just turned it on end, and it
slices him down the middle, and was like, gotcha!
Oh my gosh, that was so cool.
That was the best death in that entire fight.
That was great. Oh, I loved it. Yay, blood!
She killed 3 of the generals.
I know.
But the speakers are the enemy of God, and then all of a sudden, you see? Yeah. God hates me. She was such... I loved her in season 2.
Yeah.
She got so much more time in season 2 than in season 1. I'm like, I appreciate this so much.
Yeah.
And then the final fight with Dracula.
Oh man.
Like, Isaac wanting to protect him, but Dracula wanting to save him because he values his friend so much. Teleports him away.
Why did he send him back to the desert? Like, well, he could have sent him anywhere. Didn't
think
he know Isaac hates the desert?
I think it was just irony in that case.
Sand. It's rough and coarse and gets everywhere.
That damn quote! Damn you, Lucas!
There you go.
And then the confrontation with everything, his confirmation of the Belmonts, like, and the moment that I love the most in the middle of this fight is when he gets hit with the Morning Star. It doesn't seem to affect him, and he applauds him, but he says he can't do it, and he just shouts that he had enough, and the fireball of death. Like Graham McTavish's entire line read of that entire part, every time I watch it, I get chills. I was rewatching the series like a couple of days ago in preparation for this episode, and I got the same chills again. I'm like, these chills are never going to go away. I'm always going to get chills from this line read.
Oh, man. Yeah. It makes me want to get into voice acting even more than I already wanted to.
I know.
Then I watch these things and I'm like, I don't think I'm good enough.
Oh no, you can be.
I can be. I can become good enough.
I believe you. I believe in you. But then, all of this is happening, it eventually comes down to a point where it's just a bare knuckle drag out between Alucard and Dracula.
Yep.
And eventually it comes into in Alucard's childhood room.
Oh, why do they do it this
where
way?
Where it all comes to a head. And he regains his senses. Because we saw all throughout season 2, Dracula was nowhere near as angry as he was in season 1.
He just didn't care.
He just did not care anymore. He just wanted it to be done. He was so despondent.
Yeah. Yeah.
And besides that, momentary rage that, he gained when fighting against, Alucard and all of them, when he realized what he was doing.
Oh gosh,
wow.
Yeah. The what did he say? He said, "I'm killing our boy.
I'm killing our boy.
I must already be dead.
I must already be dead."
That
hurt.
That hurt so much.
And then the slow, tearful staking through his heart.
Yeah.
The cutting off of his head by Trevor. And Sypha's incineration of his body. You could tell, Alucard's facials. Throughout most of the series, Alucard kept it cool, collected. It was in that episode, and then in the follow-up. Oh my god.
Yeah. He was very stoic up until that point, definitely.
When he finally allowed himself the moment to grieve and the gravity of the situation.
Oh, and voiced by James Callis, right?
Yes. Fantastic work.
Yeah.
Fantastic work.
So good.
He was an unknown to me, before this series, but
really? Have you not seen Battlestar Galactica?
Not as much as I would like.
Okay.
Yeah. So I was a little bit uninformed.
Yeah. He plays a real slime ball of a character in Battlestar Galactica. It's excellent.
Talk about a 180.
Yeah, I know. What was his name? Balthazar? Was that the name of his character in Battlestar?
I want to say yes, but then again, I don't know too much about Battlestar Galactica to actually know.
Yeah, I haven't seen all of it, but I really liked it. so many great actors in it. But that's not what we're talking about right now.
But, well, kind of, but,
yeah,
episode 7 is when they kill Dracula.
Yeah. And then episode 8 happens.
And then episode 8, which is, like, the sort of epilogue to, like, kind of everything.
Yeah.
Isaac is still stranded, but he is creating his own army again in order to wipe out humanity because he has stated he never liked humans.
Yep. No.
Trevor and Sypha start to go off on their own, and we see a little bit of like hints of like a budding romance to it.
Yeah.
Which if you haven't played through, know the lore of like the Castlevania games. I'm not going to spoil that for you because we got season 3 coming, and I don't know what's going to happen with that.
Yeah. No idea.
Hector, who was with Carmilla at the time, is becomes Carmilla's property and her pet forge master.
He's like her. Yeah.
She makes him his
her little dog.
Which is kind of ironic because he always likened humans to pets in a way.
Yeah.
And now he has become the pet.
Animals. Oh, that's right, because in his little flashback, he
brought a dog
back to life with the coins. And
he prefers animals to humans.
Yep. I mean, I don't blame him, but
I can understand to a certain extent.
Yeah.
But then that happens, and then
having an undead pet made him a pariah in his town. Who would have thought?
Yeah, who knows?
I don't know. What's the problem?
Who knew? So yeah, all of that, and then the final scene where Alucard is in his father's study cleaning up. He sits in his father's chair, and he gets the visual, like, flashback in front of him as a child with his mom, Lisa. And he breaks down.
Yeah.
The stoicness is gone. No one else is around. And he grieves.
Poor kid.
Alone.
Yeah. And that's the end of the season.
And that's the end of season 2.
I knew there was a 3rd season coming, but still, when that was the end of it, I kind of sat there for a moment and just went... Here's the thing. Is that it?
that season was in 2018.
Yeah.
There have been many talks for like a 3rd season, but we couldn't confirm it. We had to It's been nearly 18 months.
Yeah.
And now, well, as of recording, we're recording like near the end of February.
Yep.
And we're a couple of weeks away from Castlevania season 3.
Awesome.
So, prior to us recording, we watched through the trailer for season 3. I watched it for like the 3rd time. Hannah watched it for the first time, and we have some things shown. It's, as far as I know, I think it's going to be either 8 to 10 episodes.
I'm most excited about the glimpse of Frozone action that Sypha got in there.
we all just love Sypha
skating on ice. Yeah.
We all love her.
Yeah. Awesome.
Wait. So Trevor? Treffy?
Treffy?
You are Treffy now.
Yeah.
Her sass.
I love just embarrassing people all the time.
Love her. And
just the theme of all of these man children just cracked me up. I loved it.
I'm going to find us a wagon. You two try not to kill each other while we're gone. Please, we're not children. Eat shit and die, Alucard. Yes, fuck you, Belmont.
That was one of my favorite parts, because they both just kind of chuckled after that. Like, it's kind of like...
And then their final goodbye to each other, Trevor says goodbye, and then Alucard just flips him off. I'm like...
I love it. I like how they sort of perpetuate that headbutting thing, but they also just don't take it too seriously.
Well, because they need to work together, and
exactly,
they come to understand one another, which is important. Eat shit and die. Yes, fuck you. It was so good.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
Oh, speaking of all of our profanity, a friend of mine just told me, she said, "Yeah, I've been listening to your podcast, but I had to stop listening to your one about horror movies because my 3-year-old was listening to it with me."
Oh no, I'm sorry.
Oh no, that's Lisette.
Oh,
yeah, Lisette was listening to it, and her little daughter was listening also. She's like, "Okay, they're talking about
Mama Lisette, I'm sorry."
Yeah, they're like, "Oh no, we're talking about whatever it's called, The Shining."
Oh, yep, that's fair. That's
like,
absolutely fair.
Little one can't hear about The Shining yet.
Yeah, absolutely. But, yeah, like, there, like, several plot threads have been, like, have been left unfinished from, like, Season 2's finale.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And it looks like we're going to get a lot of stuff. From what we can tell from Season 3's trailer, Carmilla's going to start her advance in order to take control of the vampire world and enslave the humans.
Yep.
Trevor and Sypha are somehow probably going to fight that. We don't know what role Alucard's going to play. We don't know if he's going to stay in the castle in order to protect it or what.
I would love to see a scene where the castle gets attacked and it's just him versus all these things. That would be awesome.
Yeah.
With his sword and everything.
Yeah, like his sword, his fast movements, like abilities,
oh my
all that.
Gosh, that was awesome.
Like the red like shadow that follows him when he does like the flash step thing, that is actually an homage to like one of the games.
Nice. Okay.
It's from Castlevania Symphony of the Night, where the main character you play as is Alucard.
Mm-hmm. Cool. Oh, that's awesome. Yeah.
But now with Dracula gone, like we're
what's gonna? I was surprised, to be honest.
Yeah, because usually like you kill Dracula in the games and like everything is done, but like what happens like afterwards? We're kind of in unknown.
Chaos.
We're kind of in unknown territory right now. Like, as someone who has played like some of the games and has an understanding of like Castlevania as a whole, I don't know where we're going with this.
Yeah.
Like, there's several places we could go to because with Hector and Isaac's story,
yeah,
I don't know how that's going to turn out. It may turn out the same way as like how it was in their respective game. But at the same time, I don't know.
Yeah, might branch out a little bit.
Because I'm not sure how it's going to turn out. We don't know if it's going to lead into, like, one of the future Castlevanias where Dracula is revived and, like, it's another one of the Belmonts. Because that's what keeps happening.
Oh.
In, like, the Castlevania games. Dracula, like, every time Dracula's defeated, some time passes and he's revived and it's another Belmont that stops him.
Oh, interesting.
But the theory is that even if Dracula's revived, it's someone completely different.
Huh.
So if Dracula is revived,
yeah,
if this series continues, it won't be the father of Alucard and the husband of Lisa Tepish of Lubu.
Oh, it's a different person? Like it's a different incarnation of him?
There will only be the rage. Like, it will not be the husband Vlad Tepish.
Right.
It will just be the monster Dracula.
Yeah. Yeah.
So who knows?
Who knows? Do you mean it would be just some mindless, blood-sucking creature of the night?
Not mindless blood-sucking. He would still have his intellect and everything like that, but but a lot of his like memories of what made him in the previous life are like gone.
Oh, okay. So an intelligent blood-sucking creature of the night.
Yeah. Okay. The intelligence and everything is almost still there, but that feralness remains.
Yeah. Oh man.
That'd
be interesting. Yeah.
And it becomes more monstrous as like things go on.
Oh, kind of like each reincarnation is more and more twisted.
Yeah, exactly.
Sweet. I love it.
So we don't know. I am completely in the dark of what Season 3 is going to do, what direction it's going to take, if Dracula is going to play some kind of part of it, just because I want to hear Graham McTavish as Dracula again. I can't get enough of that man as Dracula. I need more.
Maybe there'll be flashbacks.
Either or.
That's always a nice way to bring somebody back.
Yeah, absolutely. Anytime. I mean, it worked wonders for Lisa.
Yeah,
Worked wonders for Lisa.
Yeah.
But at the same time, we don't know.
No.
So, I'm keeping my mind open for the unexpected. Because this is an adaptation. They don't have to follow the original series to the letter.
Exactly, yeah.
I want to see... Because they've done a lot to make it their own through, like, the the first 4 episodes.
Right, yeah.
How are they going to make this different, yet still stay truthful, like, faithful?
Yeah.
That's what I'm most excited for.
Yeah. As a person who watches a lot of adaptations, I don't mind branching off from the source material, but as much as some do, but it has to be worth the deviation, I guess. It can't just be something dumb.
exactly. It has to be worth it for the in-universe thing, which which is one of the reasons why I like the live-action Death Note movies from Japan a little more than the anime, just because of one thing in that the movies stop when L dies. There's no thing where L dies, Light takes over as L, and there's a subsequent threat with L successors.
Oh gosh, I remember that when he was playing both sides of the field.
Exactly, that never
classic psychopath.
That never happens in the live action movies. It never comes to pass like that because everything is resolved before L dies. So there's that. Spoiler alert for those who haven't seen the Japanese movies. Please go watch them. They're well worth it. Just you don't necessarily need to watch the third movie. That's basically a spin-off of L's separate adventure. Take it with a grain of salt as you will. Okay. But that's what I'm most excited for Castlevania. Yeah. It's probably one of my favorite shows Netflix has put on. Yeah. Out of anything in it. And Netflix has put on a lot of shows that I've enjoyed watching. BoJack Horseman, Agretzko, all of the Marvel series that they released for the Defenders, Daredevil and Jessica Jones. Ugh. But Castlevania has been one that I keep going back to because I find something new and familiar at the same time every single time I watch it.
Awesome. Yeah. I'm definitely going to go back and watch that fight scene now because I don't even remember there being music, to be honest.
If it fits in so well, we'll watch the fight. We'll watch the fight scene afterwards.
Okay. Oh man,
so good.
So good.
But yeah, that's gonna be it, guys. This has been episode 18 of the General Geekery podcast about our talk about Castlevania the animated series. Woo! Hopefully this episode will go up before season 3 hits Netflix. But
yeah, hopefully.
But who knows? If it ends up afterwards, we'll see. Yeah. Maybe we'll do a follow-up episode after season 3 airs as a small little extra geekery thing and then talk about that.
Of our reactions to it or something. Yeah. Oh my gosh, that would be awesome.
That would be a fun one.
That would be one of those extras that we do on Wednesday, yeah?
Absolutely.
Great.
We haven't done an extra one on Wednesdays for a while.
No, we haven't done an extra
But
just not even going to finish that sentence, apparently.
Papa. Anyway. Boobity booby? Scusi. Bobbity booby.
Bobbity boobity. Did you just say boobity boobity?
Bobbity booby.
Bobbity bit.
Just because I have a mustache does not mean I can speak Italian.
Yeah.
Thank you, Family Guy, for that. That was probably one of the few references that I actually like from you guys. But anyway, this has been episode 18 of the General Geekery podcast. If you guys like what you've heard, make sure to listen to us more on Spotify and Spreaker and tell everyone you know about us. We appreciate it and enjoy you guys listening in on us just geeking out over everything we love to geek out about. You can follow us on social media at Gen Geek Podcast on Instagram and Facebook, and at General Geekery on Twitter. Hannah, where can they check you out at?
Well, I will be rolling dice with my party every Monday at 7:30 Central Time on twitch.tv/Loaded Dice Adventures. And you can follow me on Instagram at Pythian Legume.
Nice.
And getting that down!
Yes. And you guys can check me out on social media at Twitter and Instagram, and also on my personal Twitch channel at Ryuzaki MK7. So that has been episode 18 of the General Geekery podcast. I've said that 3 times already. That's getting a little bit tired at this point. So thank you guys once again. For Hannah Kubiak, I am Donald Kaczynski, and this has been a terrible night for a curse. But always remember, keep your geek on.
Always. Clank, clank.
Later, guys.